My name is Lena Marlowe, 25 years old. Airports always feel like choices. Like every person rolling a suitcase is walking toward the version of themselves that gets on a plane. I was supposed to be one of them that morning. My parents had planned the family trip for weeks. Sun-washed resort, matching group photos my mother could caption with something like Marlowe memories. My brother Ryan and my sister Bella already bickering in the group chat about who got the ocean view. I live in another city, but there was a direct flight from here. Simple plan. I'd meet them there. Check-in should have been easy. I handed over my ID, made a small joke about the early hour, watched the agent type. She frowned. Typed again. Looked up with a practiced, apologetic smile that said she hated being the messenger as much as I would hate the message. "Ma'am, your ticket was canceled yesterday." I laughed before I could stop myself. "No, that can't be right. I booked weeks ago." She checked again, called someone, checked again. "I'm sorry. There's no reservation under your name." I stood very still. People moved around me in smooth lines. Families, solo travelers, the backpackers who look like freedom. I stepped aside, pulled out my phone, and called my mother. No answer. My father. No answer. Ryan. Straight to voicemail. Bella. Nothing. Then a banner flashed across my screen. A text in the family thread. From Mom's number. "Have a nice taxi back home, loser." A laughing emoji. Then another I didn't recognize until I clicked through. Sienna Hart, the woman who used to date my boyfriend Evan, chiming in with a LOL on my sister's vacation story below it. Something in me split. Not a scream, not a sob, just a clean, clinical sound only I could hear. For a full second, I was absurdly calm. Then the calm cooled into clarity. They'd planned it. They'd invited me, watched me ask for time off work, heard me mention packing, smiled into my face 3 days ago on a call, and canceled my ticket behind my back. Then they ignored my calls and sent that message like they were teenagers playing pranks, not parents playing God. I wasn't angry yet. Not the hot kind. I was counting. The airport lights hummed. Somewhere a child giggled, a sound I used to translate into hope. I opened a ride-hail app, typed in my address, and let the sliding doors spit me back into air that didn't pretend to be neutral. The cab ride home was quiet. My mind wasn't. I replayed every soft favor that had turned into a standing order. The temporary tuition help for Bella that had lasted 3 semesters. The deposits Ryan promised to reimburse after the wedding that evaporated into rehearsal dinners. The emergencies my parents dipped into my "for real emergencies" fund to patch. They had gotten so used to my yes that they believed it was part of my personality, like height or eye color. At home, I put my suitcase by the door and opened my laptop. Not rage, just arithmetic. My bank app pulsed open. Recurring transfer to Bella's tuition. Cancel. Automatic wedding contribution to Ryan. Pause, and then delete. Parents, emergency envelope. I'd named Bridge because I'd been naive enough to think bridges were temporary, locked behind a new password, and moved out of sight. Then I sat on the couch and waited, not for an apology, for gravity. People who live off your oxygen only notice the air when it's gone. Day 1, nothing. They were busy posting panoramic shots of infinity pools and cabanas. My mother hashtagging family time like it didn't cost someone else's hours. Day 2, a boomerang of Bella's drink with a tiny umbrella. Sienna's username in the likes, along with Bella's caption, "Wish all 5 of us were here, but 4 is a vibe." 4. I was the subtraction dressed up as style. Day 3. A photo of my father on a jet ski. Old man still got it. And Ryan tagging a fancy restaurant with a bill he didn't pay. Day 5. The cracks. My phone buzzed with the sound people make when they remember bills are due. Bella. "Hey, can you send the tuition? It's due in a few days." She didn't ask if I could. She assumed I would. The entitlement fit her like a cardigan. I typed, "Ask Mom and Dad." 3 dots. Disappeared. 3 dots again. Bella, what? "I'm not paying for it anymore. You'll have to come up with something else." Radio silence. I pictured her staring at the screen, then at the ocean, then at our mother, recalibrating the story. Villain, victim, angle. Morning of day 6. A text from Ryan landed with the confidence of a man whose wedding spreadsheet labeled me covered. Ryan. Need to talk wedding budget. Let's meet this weekend. I'm not paying for anything. Figure it out, I wrote back. Ryan. What? I let his single words sit there like a foreclosed house. By the time their plane landed, I had learned a new thing about silence. If you don't rush in to fill it, it starts telling the truth all by itself. They must have turned their phones on at the gate because my screen erupted. Bella. OMG. Mom and Dad say they don't have the tuition. WTF is going on? Ryan. Just spoke to Mom. Are you refusing to cover what you promised? What the hell? I watched the thread, then typed, Yeah, I'm not paying for anything anymore. Hope you had a nice vacation, though. Nothing. Then, Bella, you literally promised. And Mom and Dad literally invited me on a trip and canceled my ticket. Things change. My phone rang. Mom. I let it go. Dad. Declined. Mom again. Declined. The messages arrived like a band playing increasingly loud to drown out a bad review. Mom. Lena. This is ridiculous. Call me now. Dad. Enough with the attitude. We need to talk. I made tea. The kettle's small scream matched the pitch of their texts. I wasn't ignoring them to be cruel. I was letting cause and effect finish its sentence. An hour later, the doorbell rang. I checked the peephole. Ryan. He looked like someone who'd sprinted through the last 10 minutes of denial. I opened the door and leaned against the frame like I had nowhere else to be. Yes? You're really doing this? He said without hello. Yes. He ran a hand through his hair. Look, I don't know what happened, but this is bigger than some holiday drama. The wedding's in 3 months. So? You said you'd help. I told people it was covered. Sounds like you should talk to the person who canceled my flight. He hesitated. I didn't know they were doing that. But when they told you, you thought it was funny, right? Silence, then smaller. It was a joke. I smiled because it felt better than any other expression. Okay, here's my joke. I reached for the door. Take a taxi home, loser. And I closed it gently in his face. The texts kept coming, my mother cycling through tones like radio stations, my father switching from command to reason to threat. I put the phone on, do not disturb, and watched the afternoon light slide across my floor. Somewhere below my window, a dog barked at nothing and sounded triumphant about it. That evening, Evan texted, Heard the trip imploded. Do you want company, space, or a supply drop left at the door? Space plus supply, I wrote. Bread plus soup? On it, he replied. Also, Sienna liked Bella's pool video with the 4 is a vibe caption. If that stings, I'm sorry. It doesn't sting. It catalogs, I sent back. And it did. I was done bleeding. I was building a file. By nightfall, another notification slid across my lock screen, one I'd expected, but still studied like it could tell me something new. Joint checking account, the one my parents used for groceries bills. Available balance, zeros and dollars. They'd landed at noon. By 8 p.m., the account that I had quietly kept above water for years was a dry riverbed. Minutes later, Mom. There must be a mistake. The bank shows nothing. Send something now. Dad, we need to talk. It's important. I texted back. I guess you should have thought about that before you canceled my ticket. Mom called again. This time I answered. I wanted to hear the music up close. What is wrong with you? She launched. We just got back, and now you're acting crazy. Your brother's wedding, your sister's school. Do you even care about this family? That's funny, I said. I wondered the same thing at the airport. Oh, don't be dramatic, she snapped. It was a joke. You're really holding a grudge over a prank? My father's voice cut in. Steady, reasonable, his favorite weapon. Be logical, Lena. You're in a good place financially. This won't hurt you. And whose fault is it that you're not in a good place? I asked. Silence. Then my mother exhaled like I was the thing she had to bear. We spent a lot on this trip. We assumed you'd help, like always. There it was. Not regret. Assumption. Well, I said, consider this your lesson. I learned mine. You're being selfish, she snapped. I almost laughed. I'll see you tonight. We can talk in person. They thought in person meant I was coming to save them. It didn't. It meant I wanted to watch a house learn what happens when the person it mocked stops holding it up. I arrived at their house right on time. The same house where I'd spent years fixing what everyone else broke. Bills, appliances, promises. The porch light was on, even though it was still daylight, and that tiny detail told me everything. They were waiting. The front door opened before I could knock. Dad stood in the doorway like he owned the air between us. Mom hovered behind him, her arms crossed, but her smile forced. Ryan leaned against the wall, pretending not to care, and Bella sat on the couch, scrolling her phone like this was all beneath her. "Lena," Dad said, "enough games. What is going on?" I stepped inside, set my bag down, and took a seat at the dining table. The same table where I'd written tuition checks and signed over loan payments. "Funny," I said. "Last time we talked, I was supposed to be on a flight. Now suddenly I'm your financial lifeline. Crazy how things change." Mom rolled her eyes. "Oh my God, it was a joke. Are you really dragging this out over something harmless?" "Harmless?" I repeated. "You stranded me in an airport." "Don't be dramatic," she snapped. "You weren't stranded." "You literally canceled my ticket," I said. "You sent me a text calling me a loser." She waved her hand. "You know how we are. We were teasing. It's your problem if you can't take a joke." That word, joke, landed like a slap. It was their shield, their excuse, their permission to hurt without consequence. Ryan finally spoke up. "Okay, but you're screwing all of us over now. This isn't just about Mom and Dad. My wedding is in 3 months." Bella looked up from her phone. "And my tuition's due. You're literally ruining everything for no reason." "For no reason?" I asked quietly. "You think it's no reason after what you did?" Ryan sighed, rubbing his temples like I was the one giving him a headache. "We get it, you're mad. But you're also loaded, Lena. This isn't going to hurt you." I tilted my head. "Whose fault is it that you're not in a good place financially?" That shut him up. Dad sat down across from me, his voice calm but sharp. "Be reasonable. You're in a position to help, and family helps each other." I smiled thinly. "You mean family helps you?" Mom glared. "So that's it? You're just abandoning your family?" I laughed softly. "No, Mom, you abandoned me first." I stood up. "Enjoy figuring this out on your own." Dad's voice followed me. "Lena, if you walk out that door, don't expect to be welcomed back." I paused, hand on the doorknob. "Good," I said. "That's the plan." I walked out. I expected them to call that night. Maybe Dad would send a long guilt text about family, or Mom would cry into the phone. But nothing came. A few weeks passed. I went to work, cooked dinners for one, learned what real quiet sounded like. For the first time in years, I wasn't budgeting for other people's chaos. Then one afternoon, my phone buzzed. "Ryan. Hey, we were thinking maybe we should do a family trip, to clear the air." I stared at the message for a moment before replying. "Who's paying for it?" He hesitated. "Well, we figured you could cover it since you're, doing well and all." I actually laughed out loud. "You screwed me over on a vacation, and now you want me to pay for one?" He tried again. "This would be different. We'd include you this time." "How generous," I muttered under my breath. In the background of the voice note he sent next, I heard Mom say, "Tell her we'll even let her pick the place." I shook my head. "You guys are unbelievable." "Ryan, so you'll think about it?" "No," I replied, "I won't." That was the moment I knew they hadn't learned a thing. They didn't want reconciliation. They wanted restoration. The same system where I paid, and they pretended it was love. So I answered their calls when I felt like it. I replied to their messages when it amused me, but I never paid for a thing. At first, they kept up the fake friendliness. Mom would text, "How's work?" followed by, "Must be nice not to worry about money." Dad would send pictures of home repairs with captions like, "Wish I had your budget." Bella sent selfies with the twins, and hashtags like #FamilyFirst. Ironically, right after begging for tuition again. The irony would have been funny if it weren't so predictable. Over time, their patience frayed. When I didn't cave, they stopped pretending. 3 months later, Ryan's wedding loomed. He called one evening in full panic mode. "Okay, listen," he said the moment I picked up. "I know you said you weren't helping, but I really need you, Lena. Please. If I don't get this money, we're screwed." I didn't interrupt. I let him ramble about deposits, deadlines, vendors threatening to cancel. When he finally stopped, I said, "I thought you had it covered." "Things happened. We're short. Mom and Dad can't help." I pretended to think. All right, I'll help." "Oh my God, thank you," he said, relief spilling through the line. "You don't know what this means." I smiled. "Actually, I do. That's why I'm not helping." Silence. Then, "You're joking." "I learned from the best," I said, and hung up. 2 days later, my parents called together, a rare united front. "Lena, we need to talk," Mom began, her voice sweet with manipulation. "Oh, what's wrong?" She sighed dramatically. "Your brother's in trouble. He needs financial help for the wedding, and we don't have enough. This is serious." "Oh, now it's an emergency," I said. "Funny. You didn't seem too worried about emergencies when you left me stranded." Dad's tone sharpened. "Don't be childish. You know what? I said, you're right. I should help. In fact, I'll cover the entire wedding. Mom gasped. Really? On one condition, she said quickly. You and Dad go to the wedding in a taxi. No car, no rentals, just a nice, long, humiliating taxi ride to the biggest event of the year, like the one I had to take home from the airport. The line went quiet. That's petty, Mom said finally. Yeah, I said, it is, but you started it. They refused, of course. Pride doesn't dissolve easily. And just like that, Ryan's lavish wedding transformed into a budget-friendly church ceremony with a backyard reception. I didn't attend, but I watched the photos pop up online. Forced smiles, wrinkled suits, and an empty champagne table. They called it intimate. I called it karma. For the next few months, their lives began to look exactly like the ones they'd always mocked. Normal, limited, real. Mom complained about cutting back. Dad picked up weekend shifts. Bella took out student loans and started crying about interest rates. Ryan's new wife posted cryptic quotes about starting over. And me? I just lived. Paid my own bills, slept without my phone buzzing at midnight, took weekend trips with Evan. Sometimes, while packing for a trip, I'd think about that text from months ago. Have a nice taxi ride home, loser? And I'd laugh, softly, because they were the ones who took the taxi ride after all. For a while, everything was silent. Not peaceful, just paused, like the space after an argument when no one wants to say they lost. But silence with my family was never permanent. It was the inhale before another manipulation. It started small. Mom, we've been talking and maybe we should take another family vacation. A fresh start. Everyone together this time. I stared at the message, almost impressed by her persistence. The woman could weaponize denial. Who's paying for it? I texted back. She replied instantly, we'll figure it out. Maybe you can book the flights and we'll cover food this time. I laughed so hard my phone slipped off the counter. You already had your trip, I wrote. Enjoy the memories. 5 minutes later, a message from Ryan came through. Ryan, we're serious this time. It'll be fun. Yeah, I replied. That's what you said last time before you canceled my ticket. No one answered after that. Weeks passed. Then Bella posted a photo on Instagram. Her and Mom on a day trip. Matching smiles and matching captions. Family is everything. I scrolled past it until I saw the comments. At the top, one name stood out. Sienna Hart, Evan's ex. The same woman who'd liked the post of their last trip when they left me behind. She'd written, beautiful as always, hope to meet up soon. It wasn't the comment itself. It was the tone, the familiarity, the implication that she wasn't just orbiting Evan anymore, she was circling my family. Later that night, I mentioned it to Evan over dinner. He frowned. Sienna and Bella follow each other? Apparently. She's been commenting on Mom's post, too. He sighed. She likes to insert herself into anything that gets her attention. Ignore it. But I couldn't, because it wasn't just attention, it was infiltration. My family had a new ally, and she was the kind who'd burn bridges just to light her own path. The next few weeks, the messages started again. Bella, tuition deadline is this week. Can you just front it until Mom's bonus hits? Ask Mom and Dad. Bella, they said you have more saved, and I plan to keep it that way. Mom, we've been thinking of hosting a dinner. Everyone wants to make things right. I didn't even dignify that one with a response. They wanted to make things right the same way arsonists want to admire the fire. Then came Ryan again. His text came in bursts, fast, desperate, unpunctuated. Ryan, please pick up. I know you're mad, but I really need you. It's not for me, it's for her. I didn't answer. An hour later, another, we lost the venue deposit, please. Just a small loan. I'll pay it back. That last line almost made me laugh out loud. Loan. From a man who'd never paid anything back in his life. I decided to play it differently this time. How much? Ryan, 10,000. I whistled softly. That's a lot. Ryan, please, Lena, I'll do anything. Anything? Ryan, yes. Okay, I wrote, I'll help. Ryan, oh my God, thank you. You have no idea what this means. Actually, I do, I typed. That's why I'm not helping. The typing bubbles appeared, then vanished. It was cruel. I knew that. But it was also balance. The same way a locked door is cruel to a burglar. 2 days later, my parents called me together again. Mom's tone had that desperate brightness of someone trying to disguise panic as concern. Your brother's wedding is in trouble, she began. He needs financial help. Dad added, and we don't have enough. You have to step in. Have to? I repeated. Lena, Mom said, exasperated. This is family. You can't just stand by while everything falls apart. Oh, I can, I said. But you know what? Let's make a deal. I'll cover the whole wedding. Mom gasped. Really? On one condition. What is it? You and Dad show up in a taxi. No chauffeur, no rental, no car service, just like I had to. The silence on the line stretched until it almost had weight. That's ridiculous, Dad said finally. Yeah, I said. So was your joke. They refused, of course. Pride's a luxury you can't buy back once it's gone. So the wedding shrank. The venue downgraded to a modest church hall. The catering turned from plated dinners to buffet trays. And the laughter in the photos online looked tighter than their suits. They called it simple. I called it poetic. By late spring, the cracks became fractures. Dad's job hours were cut. Mom's bonus never came. Bella's tuition bills piled up, and her captions about gratitude turned into memes about student debt. Even Ryan's marriage looked rocky, his wife posting vague quotes about betrayal disguised as loyalty. Meanwhile, I slept better than I had in years. I wasn't celebrating their pain. I was just finally not sponsoring it. Evan noticed the change first. You've been smiling in your sleep, he said one morning. I have? He nodded. You look lighter, like someone cut the strings off you. I smiled. Maybe they finally did. He kissed my forehead. Good, keep them off. But peace never lasts long when people are addicted to chaos. A week later, I woke up to my phone buzzing nonstop. A new Facebook post, Sienna heart tagging my sister. The caption read, "Some people will walk away from family and call it self-care. Real love doesn't quit when things get hard." Below it, a photo of Mom and Bella, arms wrapped around each other, fake smiles radiant under the caption, #family over everything. I felt that old heat rise in my chest for the first time in months. Then I noticed the comments. Ryan's wife, preach. Mom. Exactly. Some people forget who raised them. I stared at the screen, thumb hovering, then I put the phone down. I wasn't going to respond. I wasn't going to defend myself, because every time they dragged me into their chaos, they got attention. And attention was their currency. I wasn't spending mine anymore. 2 days later, Sienna posted a quote on her story. People who think boundaries make them strong forget that walls also keep love out. I rolled my eyes and sent it to Evan. She's officially lost subtlety. He replied, she's lost relevance, don't feed it. I didn't, but I made a folder on my phone that night and titled it Receipts, Screenshots, Texts, Dates, Proof. Not to post, to remember. Because someday when guilt tried to rewrite history, I wanted the evidence of who they really were. And I wanted to remember who I'd finally become, someone who could walk away and not turn back. By summer, the quiet felt different. It wasn't the shaky calm of waiting for another blow. It was earned silence, the kind that fills the corners of a life you finally own. My phone stopped buzzing. No guilt trips, no accidental calls, no last-minute requests disguised as emergencies, just stillness. But stillness never sits right with people who feed on noise. It started with a letter. A real one, handwritten, folded neatly, slipped through my mail slot like a ghost. The handwriting was familiar, tight, controlled, trying to look composed. Mom's. Lena, you proved your point. We get it. But we're still family. Your sister is struggling. Your brother's wife left him, and your father isn't well. We're not asking for money, just a visit. Can't we go back to how things were? I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Then I folded it again and placed it under a candle on my counter. I didn't burn it. I didn't frame it. I just let it sit there, waited, quiet, forgotten. Because there was no going back. Not to how things were. Not to being the walking apology they depended on. A few weeks later, I heard about Ryan's separation from a friend of a friend. Apparently his wife had finally snapped. I married a man, not a child, she'd told someone. I'm tired of living off his sister's ghost. Bella dropped out of her program halfway through the semester. Too many loans, not enough lectures. Dad's business lost its biggest client. Mom started selling jewelry online. The entire family was unraveling, thread by thread, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I felt distance, not coldness, just distance, the healthy kind. Evan and I had moved in together by then. He'd bring home flowers that didn't need apologies attached. I'd make us dinner without worrying about whose crisis it was interrupting. Our life was small, but it was ours. One night, we were sitting on the balcony watching rain smear the city lights. Evan turned to me. Do you ever think about forgiving them? I thought about it. Sometimes, I admitted, but then I remember they never said sorry. They just said they were struggling. He nodded. Struggling isn't the same as changing. Exactly. A month later, Bella texted, the first message in almost 6 months. Bella, I'm sorry for everything. I was stupid. I miss you. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, I hope you're doing okay. It wasn't forgiveness, it was closure. She replied once more, Mom wants to see you. Tell her I wish her peace, I wrote, and left it at that. That weekend, Evan and I took a drive out of the city. We passed through neighborhoods that looked like the edges of my old life. Same chain stores, same small houses with porches full of stories no one would admit to. When we stopped for gas, I realized where we were, 2 turns away from my parents' street. For a moment, I stared at the sign. The name of the road, the direction that once felt like obligation. Evan noticed. You want to see them? I shook my head. No, I just want to keep driving. So we did. That night back home, I opened my laptop and read over something I'd written months ago, the document I called the ledger. It listed every transaction, every favor, every guilt-ridden deposit, every lie. But this time, it didn't make me angry. It made me proud. Because it wasn't about the money. It was proof that I had finally stopped paying for other people's comfort with my own peace. I scrolled to the bottom and added one final line. Debt settled, interest no longer due. Then I closed the file for good. A few days later, I got a message from Sienna. Yes, that Sienna. The ex-girlfriend who had lingered like an echo in Evan's past and my family's gossip. It was short. Just wanted to say I admire how strong you are. Bella told me everything. I'm sorry for what you went through. It should have irritated me, but it didn't. Instead, I felt a strange relief. Maybe she wasn't trying to stir drama this time. Maybe she finally realized whose side she was on. Or maybe it didn't matter anymore. Because for the first time, I didn't care what narrative anyone else was telling. I knew mine. Now, my mornings look like this. A cup of coffee I don't have to share. Sunlight hitting the plants I actually remember to water. Evan humming softly in the kitchen. The sound of a life built on choice, not duty. Sometimes I walk past the mirror and barely recognize myself. Not because I look different, but because I finally look free. Last week, I drove through my parents' part of town again. The house looked smaller, the shutters chipped, the lawn untended. A for sale sign leaned against the fence, half fallen. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I just glanced once in the rearview mirror and kept driving. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I was leaving them behind. I felt like I'd already left a long time ago. People always say forgiveness is freedom. Maybe they're right, but so is distance. So is silence. So is living a life that no one else gets to hold hostage. Later that night, I sat at my desk and wrote something on a sticky note. I stuck it to my mirror, right above my reflection. I was never the problem. I was the solution they took for granted. And when I saw my own smile, I realized something. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It just arrives one quiet morning and refuses to leave.